Welcome to the Football Historian Podcast.
By all means, enjoy it.
He will go right to the very top.
Dos, tres, cuatro times.
Here we go, Germans.
I will turn these results round.
All right, that's good manners.
There's animosity, but there's no fight.
If you can't beat them, join them.
You make me feel sick if I look at you.
No, I want to fight here.
Don't drink, don't sleep with women, don't drive fast cars.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shitty.
Hello, welcome to the Football Historian Podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Hayes. Thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure, thank you.
So you came highly recommended by a former guest, Harry Robinson.
Oh yeah, cool.
So we've got an episode with him coming out where he did drunk history and he had a whole bottle of rum sat in that chair. So I've cleaned it, don't worry.
Fair play.
But you've got quite an interesting tie with football in many different ways, which we'll talk about that later. But the first thing I want to talk about is that you're a Wigan fan.
Yes.
And somehow, this is episode 45, and I think you're the fifth Wigan fan I've had.
Oh, wow.
I'm not having a go at Wigan, but not having the biggest fan base, but somehow I think you're the second most supported club.
We'll take that, definitely.
Wigan used to be very good. Aren't as good as they are.
Yeah.
If that's no offence. Why were they very good in the Premier League, and what's gone wrong since?
Wigan I think we're a unique club, completely unique club. When I started watching them, we were at the bottom, literally, and the journey was fantastic from the bottom to the top, literally. And not many fans have done that, in their journeys. That just, it was just a superb, from literally 1,000 fans watching a game at a home game to Premier League, filling the stadium, new stadiums, so it's been fantastic. The key to it all was Dave Whelan. Full stop, end of story. We couldn't have done it without that fella, because before then it was very rocky times, and after it was even worse, rockier times. So again, I think the likes of Wrexham have stole the show doing a Netflix series, but if they actually wanted to get the nitty gritty of highs and lows of football, Wigan would be the one. Yeah. It really would. Yeah,
well, as you say, it's been quite a journey. I think obviously the peak is the FA Cup final. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So
and I wouldn't have swapped it. Oh, it's unbelievable. The greatest thing with the FA Cup was it wasn't expected. So again, we were playing Man City, who were the ultimate team at the time. So you're going into a game with no expectations whatsoever. Well, you're going into the FA Cup final with no expectations, which is it's ridiculous, So earlier on, we played in the League Cup final, first time when we were in the Premier League against Man United. We got battered 4-0, so there was no expectations. It was the FA Cup final. It was just a great day to be had, and one obviously we took by storm, because we could, even though it was a last minute goal, we played very well in that day, So it was superb. It was a great day out, and obviously memories got a little bit drunken at the end of it, but it was it's what it's all about, football. It's you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and to win, the world's greatest domestic cup competition. And it's Wigan Athletic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and then you just touched on it there. So I was going to say that the League Cup final came before the FA Cup final. Being a Liverpool fan, I just went to Wembley and watched Newcastle beat us, but I felt like they had that, because they lost to United again, they'd had the day out, and then the next time it felt like, right, let's try and make sure we do something this time. Yeah. You've just said there was no expectation. Do you reckon any of it was like, come on, let's not just be the team who made it to the final, let's try and win, or was it just against all odds a big upset?
I think behind the scenes, obviously, Roberto Martinez has been a magician with that type of games. He obviously knew we were going to attempt to win. That's his job, full stop, end of story. But I'm not having it that there was any fan at Wigan who thought we were going to do the business, because it just wasn't on the cards. And that's no disrespect to us being Wigan fans. It's the FA Cup final against Manchester City, who were dominant that year. But that's what's great about it. No expectation, but the more and more the game went on, the more and more your heart started beating a little bit faster. You started sweating a little bit more, going, actually, and then to score it last minute, that was just, top football these days. You can't celebrate a goal without VAR interrupting. That was celebrated like you'll never celebrate a goal again, because it weren't going to get ruled out. It was the winner, full stop, end of story, because of the time it was scored. Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. And then, we'll move on then from there to your top 5 Wigan players of all time. See, you've done your homework, don't we? I've had to. Done your workings out. But if we try and add a bit of drama, because I can see you've got it written down, if you go 5 to 1 for us, please, and obviously say the name and explain why they're in that position.
Okay. In an order. Didn't do them in an order.
But sorry.
I did. So yeah, I think I've watched Wigan, as I say, from the bottom to the top. So Mine are a lot more history related.
It's the right place for it.
Yeah, of course, of course, and not more, not recent ones. There's some too easy to be said, and like the Will Griggs of the recent eras and all that stuff. But I think we've got to respect the ones who got us there. So if I did it in an order, I'll do Nathan Ellington as 5.
Would you?
Absolutely awesome striker who. His partnership with Jason Roberts was just second to none. It literally second to none. And it's rare in this day and age that you can get a pairing like that. Well, in this day and age, we don't even play with 2 up front. So when you had 2 players on the pitch who you knew were just going to bag a goal or 2 and read each other's minds, I think they played together at Bristol Rovers before coming to Wigan. It was just a joy to watch. And Nathan Ellington was just one of them players who I just knew. When he got the ball, the way he dropped his shoulders, he had huge shoulders, but the way he dropped them, the way he did it was fantastic. Any penalty, anything in the air, anything dead ball, Nathan Ellington was on it, totally. Totally.
Go on in number 4.
Number 4, I'm going with another goal scorer here is Graham Jones, so a little bit earlier. Graham Jones was the signing for me that when we were going through the divisions, the lower league, when we signed Graham Jones, we signed from Doncaster Rovers for 150 grand. And he was just a beast. He was an absolute beast. He's obviously the coach at Newcastle now. He was in the England setup. He's been following Roberto Martinez in quite a bit of his coaching career. But as a player, I wouldn't have anybody else up top than Graham Jones. He would run through brick walls for you. He would hit brick walls. He was just a crazy player. No nonsense. Did the job. But also scored something like 33 goals in a season. So as Wigan progressed, he was key to it, absolutely key to it. It was quite sad how he tailed off a little bit. Ended up getting binned off by us a little bit. I'd say too early, but the rise of Wigan it outpaced him.
Yeah.
So we had to chop and change quite a few times just to get up the divisions.
Yeah.
And sadly he got tailed away. But what a player! What a player!
Go on in number 3.
Midfield, I'm going Wilson Palacios. So we made certain signings as Wigan went up the divisions, and in the Premier League we did it very, very tactical, which I love. So Dave Whelan was a multimillionaire, and he could have gone at it, with his checkbook. And there was rumours at a time that he was going to sign Michael Owen, but I wouldn't have wanted that either. I wanted us to earn our right and to get the different type of players. So when we found players like Palacios, there was a whole bunch of players of that era, but Wilson Palacios, just as a midfield dynamo, kind of didn't know what he was doing, was always running on extra batteries, just what a player, and just for us to get that player from absolutely nowhere in Honduras, playing for Olympia, and I go back to that era, we signed 5 Hondurans. That's just ridiculous, So 5 Hondurans was in a Wigan Athletic team, and quite a few of them did well for us. And Wilson Palacios just was the better ones out the lot, because obviously he went to Tottenham. You could just see his ability. And again, probably somebody who didn't match the ability that he had, because he kind of went to Tottenham, then tailed off a little bit and went to Stoke and just went a little bit downhill. Yeah. But for what he had for us and what he did, just top draw. Okay. Absolutely top draw.
Silver
medal. Antonio Valencia. Can't not mention somebody who was at Man United for 10 years. And again, love the fact that we hit the Premier League and we found players like Antonio Valencia. I said about Graham Jones running through a brick door. Valencia was exactly the same. What was unique about Valencia was he didn't run round players on the wing, he just run through them. It was just absolutely superb. He'd run through the player and the pinpoint crosses were just unbelievable. And for a player, obviously, to do what he did at us, sent us to a next level, and the best player we've signed, we've signed for somebody else, and 10 years at Man United says it's all. Quality.
And the winner is
will always be Ariane Dazou. Ariane Dazou is just your absolute. Any football team, any football manager would have an Ariane Dazou in it. Just colossal. Absolutely. What he gives to the side. He's the heartbeat of your side. He'll never shirk a tackle. He'll probably do too many of them tackles. When Ronaldo played at the JJB. Within 5 minutes, he was absolutely crumped by Ariane Dazou. And it's not that I'm a nasty person, but it's stuff like that you have to get into the game. And Ariane Dazou was just absolutely amazing at what he did. The leadership he gave, just the drive, the never say die attitude, and as a person as well, just an absolute gentleman. You'd have him in every team. You really would.
Okay, that's a good top 5. Isn't he like a policeman or a detective?
A detective, yeah. He's a detective in Holland, but also doing non-league football now. So he's trying to get into the game from the bottom up. So crazy.
Well, I think we've had the two lads from the Cultures podcast who do the Barclaysmen. I think Wigan is known as the Barclaysmen team, and that there's so many. But obviously, you mentioned Palacios there. A lot of credit gets given to teams like Brighton today, where the scouting's so good, as you say, to pick someone out of Honduras and bring them in. That's obviously, as much as people might scoff or whatever, and you say it's a local owner and whatever, they must have had a very good scouting network set up to get players like that. So do you reckon maybe that sometimes is overlooked a bit as well?
Oh, 100%. I think it was... we could have quite easily come up into the Premier League, spent a hell of a lot of money, got into trouble, got relegated, and we could have gone a lot worse than what we did, later on in life. We did 8 years in the Premier League, and the list of them type of players, Mena Figueroa, the other Hondurans, Mena Figueroa, he was the most capped player for his country, and what he gave you at fullback was just second to none. Pascal Chimbonda, we found from Bastia in France, did 1 season in the Premier League, made it into the Premier League Team of the Year. Antonio, them individuals were absolutely superb for us.
And then again, you said about jumping up the leagues and players reaching that level. I think the other Wigan fans we've had in, a couple have mentioned Will Grigg, and that he was like the best striker ever in League One, but wasn't quite the same in the Championship. So that must be quite difficult for a team, because obviously, even look at like Ipswich this season, look at Luton last season, there's certain players who have made the journey with them, but 95% of them are going to have to go. So can you spot the players who are going to make all the steps up? Is it obvious? And maybe it's been someone who you thought deserved to go further than maybe who you said there?
Yeah, well, I think the sad scenario that every Wigan fan would say is Nathan Ellington didn't come into the Premier League with us. That was because he made it for us and would have been outstanding for us in the Premier League. But sadly, agents, whatever it was, he got diverted to go West Brom. It is, I wouldn't swap it for anything, the journey that I've been on as a football fan. My uncle is Liverpool through and through, and he's seen every European Cup win. I've seen none of that. Never thought we'd be in Europe. Crazily, we did once, and that was an experience. But I've seen a team from the bottom to the top, and that's something that he's kind of jealous of, because the emotions that you get from that, and as I say, you've just mentioned there about the players and how to regroup and how to take a team to a different level. Some of it was harsh, because you got affiliation to these players, but sadly they can't go that next step. But it was just part of that model. Some of the players over there, Kevin Sharp, we signed £100,000 from Leeds United when we were very, very low down. What a player, what a signing that was, but could only take us a certain step, and then you had to crack on again.
Right, well, we can happily talk more about Wigan later, but enough of the Wigan chat, and we're going to the top 5 players of all time. So this could be any player, any team, any era, but they can't have played for Wigan. That's the only rule. I feel that made it harder for you. But...
Yeah. No, that's fine.
We're going to top 5. Start at 5 again if possible. But
let's do it this way around. See, I'll probably stick with the way I've written it down, because there's not a controversial one, but there's one that doesn't really get the credit that he should do. But I put Gazza as number 5, so my era. My first ever favourite player, Paul Gascoigne. Again, a player who just gives everything on the pitch, no holds barred, that type of scenario. Got himself in trouble quite a few times by doing it, too much no holds barred, and sadly injuries curtailed, held him back. But Gazza, what an era it was for English football to have somebody, a gem like that. But you look back at it, and the press hounded him. If that was a little bit different, we could have a different player in our hands, and we could have been winning trophies, as a country. But sadly, it didn't go that way. So Gazza I'd definitely have as in my top 5. Steven Gerrard. I mentioned before about my uncle. So my uncle Stephen, mad Liverpool fan. And before Wigan made it to the Premier League, when I didn't even think we were getting to the Premier League, no Wigan fan thought we could get there. We dreamt about it. We really, really did. And I believe more than anybody. But did I think we would do it? Certainly as quick as we did, because we did it fairly sharpish. My uncle said, do you want to come and watch Liverpool in Europe for a few seasons just so I can experience European football? I definitely never thought I would watch that in Wigan. But so I went watching Liverpool, and the amount of times I've seen Stevie Gerrard win a game on his own. So what a talent, what a guy again. I think you get the type of player that I like. It's just no holds barred. They just don't want to lose. And Olympiacos, it might have been, where he just ran the show. Absolutely superb. What a player. So yeah, definitely Gerrard in that. I'm going to keep Scouse but flip to Rooney.
Okay.
Again, love the fella. I'm a big fella myself. I love the fact that there's some players out there who have to train harder than others, and there's a fine line of how they have to train and perform. He did it. He did it at the top level, and what he gave to the game was just unbelievable. Underrated. England, what he did for England, absolutely underrated. And then you go to the very end of his career, and probably one of my favourite highlights, besides the FA Cup final, is when he's at DC United, when he tracks back that ball in his own half. He's the only one, tracks it back, gets it, pinpoint ball, and it's a last minute winner. Unbelievable. And that's Wayne Rooney all over. Just never go up, and even to the last minute. Yeah. This is the one that my curveball type one, where
It's where you get abuse in the comments.
oh no, I don't think there's no abuse. I think just people don't appreciate who he was.
Okay.
Matt Le Tissier.
Oh, yep.
People don't appreciate who Matt Le Tissier was, and certainly in this era, because they just see him as a pundit and etc. etc. But you go back to when he was a player, unbelievable. You could get the top 20 goals of Matt Le Tissier, and you're not getting near half of them, because he just got the ball and did fantastic things with him. Because he was doing it for Southampton, people seen it but didn't see it and appreciate how he was. Absolutely unbelievable goals, like magician, an absolute magician with it, with the ball. As I say, if he was doing that for Liverpool, United, City these days, he'd be worth bucketfuls. But what a fella to stay at his home club as well all his career, not really be interested in going anywhere else. Fair play to the fella. As I say, if I look back on highlights, when I was a kid, I remember buying one of my Christmas presents was a VHS, Matt Le Tissier's greatest goals. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's top draw. And then top, I'll go for Ronaldo, the Brazilian. Again, my era of watching him play. I actually watched him live, and it was at Goodison Park. Brazil played England, I think it was, in the Umbro Cup back in the day, and he was only a kid at PSV Eindhoven, so I was very lucky to see him, firsthand. Again, what a player! Just the talent, the skill, again the weight factor and all that stuff. He had to juggle the injuries, but he could still do it. He could still do it. Just too short of a career, sadly.
But yeah, I think they're 5 great mentions, I think. And I will say on Rudy, being a Liverpool fan, you could understand why I don't like him. I do think he is very, very underrated for what his England stats and his Man United stats. Yeah. And he's not really mentioned in many top discussions ever. I think obviously being in an era with Messi and Ronaldo probably doesn't help him. But I think what a player he was as well, to be fair. And he seems like an alright bloke. I mean,
totally.
There's a few maybe extramarital things, so that's not my interest. But you've seen him on. Well, for me, obviously, as well, but Paddy the Baddy, UFC fighter, he went and waited in the dressing room for him, and then apparently he was like dead polite waiting for him, went over and was just like, oh, well done. And he just seems like someone who's proud of where he's from, as you say, worked dead hard, and is a pretty good footballer as well. Yeah, totally. And I think that the work rate is just, some people have to work harder than others. Some people are gifted more than others. Wayne Rooney absolutely works, hell for leather for his career. Yeah. And he still doesn't want to give up on it. Management might not be for him, but he's still having a crack at it, and he's still doing it. It's not a money thing or anything like that, because he's proven that. Didn't he pay wages were at one club, Derby, at Derby? So he just wants to make a name for himself. But as you quite rightly say, he doesn't get the credit for what he's done. And as I say, even in America, he'll probably hardly get mentioned there. But
the stuff he did there, and just to highlight their game. Class, absolutely class.
And then Letizia as well, as we speak, we're in the midst of Trent Alexander-Arnold decision, which, again, as a Liverpool fan, maybe I don't agree with, but that shows that you do need to play at a top club to get the recognition you deserve, because his England chances were very limited, and as you say, he was always in the mix and top goals. I think he got 100 goals in the Premier League, which for any midfielder is impressive. Add on that it's for a Southampton side that weren't exactly great. So maybe just again from being a Wigan fan and lower down, do you think the players in the lower half of the Premier League, never mind Championship League One, get the respect in terms of England call-ups and international call-ups?
I don't think they do. We might do with this manager, because he's Dan Burn, fair play. He's spotted other things, but I think certainly in history they haven't. Listen, you're in football for the love of the game and or money, so you don't have to move. But if your aspiration is to play in another country and to make it, and that's where I go back to David Beckham, fair play to the fella. Went here, there, and everywhere, but actually top tier, top tier Italy, top tier Spain, He did it again. It weren't a money thing. It was just he wanted to achieve them in different countries. Trent, I don't know. He come across originally as he'll do it all for Liverpool, full stop, end of story. But clearly his head's been turned by whatever reason.
Don't want to speak about that at the moment.
Let's pass.
Go on, we'll go to your all-time five-a-side team if you've got that prepared.
Okay, yeah.
Any team, any player, any era. Who would you have?
I've kind of gone. You've probably controversial me saying these type of players here, but growing up in the era that I did, goalkeeper, the best I'd put in it is Peter Schmeichel. Just of his dominance. I think as a goalkeeper, we've had quite a few over the years in the Premier League, but I just think as a dominant keeper that you would never ever fear for being in nets. There's been good keepers, but then there's been like a little bit of an error, or there's just been a little bit of a question mark. You can never question Peter Schmeichel. He was. Even look what he did for Denmark. When they came from nowhere, I think they weren't they the bogey side or whatever, or they didn't
even qualify.
That's it, and they got it and they won it. And it's no surprise really. Peter Schmeichel was in net, and he was just a dominance. So I'll five-a-side, goalkeeper Schmeichel. I'm going to keep with the Man United theme and put Roy Keane in the middle. Just to kill people, basically. He would not get people past you. I love how he's turned into a pundit, to be fair, because he's been very good how he's turned into a pundit as well. But again, it was my era of Premier League when he left Forest to come to United, and just the play that you'd want in your team if you wanted to win a game. And if I'm saying a five-a-side game, who I would want to win, I'd want Roy Keane there.
Yep.
Ariane Dezoe in defence. You don't get past Harry, or if you do, you've done something brave. And then it's quite easy to go up top to say the Messis, the Ronaldos, or the other Ronaldo. I'm just going to go controversial and go, I've mentioned it already, Nathan Ellington and Jason Roberts. The duo who read it like anybody else. Five-a-side, you've got to do the game a little bit differently. It's on about connections, and you can't just throw people together. So that's where I've paired a couple of United, and then paired a couple of strikers who... They didn't know how to do it.
And then someone's just got injured. We need a super sub. Who are you bringing on?
Oh, wow. I'd have to go for that, like the Brazilian Ronaldo.
He'll be sat there watching. Ellington and that get injured and go, 5 minutes, please, Cafe. Sounds good. Okay, that's good to you. That's perfect. Right, we do on here as well, we do the debate where we try and settle the biggest debates in football history.
The debate.
So some of the obvious ones, or maybe not. So, First question is Gerrard, Lampard, or Scholes?
I'd go Gerrard. Only because I've watched it firsthand of him winning games. He did for England as well. I can't think what game that was. He just does it, doesn't he? He's just... Scholes, you can't disregard what ex-players have said, especially the Barcelona ones saying, he's the best. But... Gerrard's man on that.
So would Scholes be second?
Yeah.
And next up we got Pele or Maradona.
I don't really like saying anything when I haven't watched enough of them. obviously they're both 10 out of 10. You can't really split them. But I've not watched enough to comment. I'd have to go with the majority and go Pele probably, just because his goal scoring record was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd have to follow suit on that one.
He's actually losing. Pretty see him not, but I'm quite
right,
interested.
no
That's
way.
why I asked that one, because I think a lot of people have seen both.
Yeah.
I always think it's good to see what the legacy that people leave behind.
Yeah.
Well, the next one then is Messi or Ronaldo.
Yeah, I'll always say Messi. But I respect so much how Ronaldo has done his career. You know, so my opinion will always be is Messi's the one who's just been born with it. Absolutely born with it. Magical, how he controls that ball, just magic. But Ronaldo, for the way his work rate, you know, how high he jumps for a head, all that type of stuff, if he has manufactured himself in that. Don't get me wrong, he was obviously born with skill, but then he's manufactured himself to be better, and again, and again, and again, and not to stop, and again.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd always say Messi, but I've got huge respect for Ronaldo.
And then if they're the best two players of the last 10, 15 years, who would you put behind them two in third, please?
You'll have to go the Brazilian one, and not to be boring with the cliche of kind of that's how it goes, but yeah, without a doubt, talent-wise, he had it. He's just been hampered.
Yeah.
You know, if you say he was still playing, you know, he's only just quit playing type thing. He had it, and if he had the fitness of a Ronaldo, he would, you know, it'll be unbelievable.
Yeah, he'd still be going. Right, okay, then another one that I've got here is one I started asking, but it's been the same answer every time, so I might get rid of it soon. But you may change it if you go the other way. Is Salah or Hazard?
Oh wow. Oh wow. I'd probably have to go Salah. Not because I'm sat in the room with you, but
No pressure.
No, I think I don't think Hazard lived up to. He could have gone even better. Salah, I respect of how he flipped his career of coming to Liverpool and just being absolutely awesome. To be fair, you know.
And then the next couple are quick fires, so you feel free to explain. You think that we're not in a rush, but just if you want a one word answer, you're fine too. So we've got Haaland or Mbappe.
Mbappe.
Okay. Technology or traditional refereeing.
Traditional.
Relegation or playoffs with teams from the league below.
Relegation.
Extra time or straight to penalties.
Extra time.
La Liga or the Premier League.
Premier League.
Ronaldinho or Zidane.
Zidane.
Rangers or Celtic.
Rangers.
Buffon, Casillas or Neuer.
Neuer.
And then last couple, which I've asked you to prepare, is who do you think is the most overrated player of all time? And if you can explain that one.
It's going to be controversial, this, because I've gone for a Wigan one. So again, overrated player of all time is Wigan. As we came up the divisions, signed players who should have improved us, but there was a certain brand who didn't. But they came for the money. So I'll always go. So again, because I've watched all the games and all that stuff. So Olivier Capo, his name was, and he played for Juventus at one point in his career, I think. But overrated is just underrated. You know, like he was that overrated. I can't exaggerate too much. He came to just see out his career, and sadly that was on Wigan's wage expense. But yeah, definitely.
A mercenary, do we say?
Definitely.
That's overrated. Who's the most underrated player of all time?
I'd probably go Letizia, just because of him not getting spotted as much. Especially in the early, when he first started doing all that stuff and scoring from here, there, and everywhere. Every team needs that little bit of flair. It's proven now. You know, the game's gone to flair. It could have gone. England could have gone to flair so many years earlier than what they did, but it got ignored because he was playing for Southampton.
Yeah, the Mavericks. I think he's maybe one of the final ones of them. Then the last two questions on these debates will be the greatest football team of all time. So, as in not like a 1 to 11, but like an actual team that existed. So,
yeah,
I don't want to put any names in your head, but I'm sure you've got some.
Well, in my personal viewing, has to be the one that won the FA Cup for Wigan. Very boring answer for you guys, but it has to be. It has to be, again, with no expectation to win an FA Cup. The FA Cup. That team was outstanding. To beat Man City as they did, Callum McManaman to play as he did, Boycey to play as he did, the goal kick, everything. Ben Watson to come on after an injury. That team, so unique. and made history. Will never go away.
Okay, great. And then the last one on the debate question is, who's the greatest football manager of all time?
Controversially, I have to say it fast in here, Sir Alex Ferguson.
You're allowed to say it's fine.
The way he's managed a club for how long and to get so much out of the players, and then again. So he's probably the obvious answer, and the one that I really do respect, for what he did. Not being a Man United fan, but just I respect that in football. I think that's the start of the eras of Premiership rivalry and managers and all that type of stuff. It was Fergie's doing, and then the Wengers and the Mourinho's. It just fantastic era for football. Personal, Roberto Martinez is obviously way up there, but controversial because he did it his own way. So he only had one style of football. So we won some, but we lost hell of a lot. So from personal choice, I'll probably flip completely to Paul Jewell. Paul Jewell as your hardcore manager, just a great man manager, getting the best out of players, and he got a team into the Premier League with a Wigan team sooner than anybody expected, and that was just because of his personal drive. And I respect him even more now. So there was a recent interview with him where he's kind of not bothered about football anymore. He's done it, and I kind of like that as well, where he knows he's done it 10 out of 10, and if he's not feeling 10 out of 10. Well, I'm not doing it then. Yeah. So I kind of respect how he's gone out of the game with that. So even more so, he's kind of gone up a chink for me.
Well, we had Chris Kirkland in. I think he spoke about playing under Rafa Benitez, and then he made the move obviously to Wigan under Paul Jewell. And I think he respected Paul Jewell's way of management a lot more than he did Rafa Benitez's. So I think to him, that's obviously a massive part for players, isn't it? It's having the manager on side, as you say. Roberto Martinez gets a lot of the credit, but Paul Jewell obviously did a fantastic job for Wigan. So I think having those type of managers are obviously very important, and honesty seems one of the biggest things for players.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Man management as well. That's the whole managing people as people. Yeah,
Of course, yeah. Okay, right, and this is a new thing that we've started doing. So I'm not sure if I asked you to prep this one, so apologies if not.
Probably not.
This is the red card.
Okay.
I didn't tell you. Apologies. I'm reading it twice. So red card for one thing in football and one thing in life. So one thing you're getting rid of. So we've had VAR, we've had traffic, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what would you give football? What would you give the red card?
It's got to be VAR. It's got to be VAR. And again, that's just, I hate to go with what everybody says, but it has ruined the game. Very, very strangely, I got to the top of the game watching Wigan Athletic live, and I hate to say this, I got bored. Only because of the level at Wigan that was at. So you kind of can only go so far. Don't get me wrong. We then won the FA Cup, which was another step above. But I've gone into non-league football now. I love non-league football. It's just a different environment. It's never say die attitude. You kind of you're part of the club a little bit more rather than just a number. Your actual name, if you like. Yeah. So I could only fear. I've not had it live in a game that I've celebrated and VAR was involved. I feel sorry for the ones who have had it and it's changed. It just takes the excitement away from it.
Yeah, well, at time of recording, we've not long lost a cup final. That Chiesa goal at Wembley, like it just looked onside.
Yeah,
it took like 3.5 minutes, and obviously you watch it back, how it took that long.
Yeah,
and like we had the impetus, scores. Newcastle probably still would have won, deserved to win, whatever. But we scored. It added time, got the goal, and everyone was going mad. And then it all just went flat whilst we waited for an obvious goal to be given, and then it felt like by the time the goal was actually given, he'd already lost all the impetus. Newcastle got to reset, and like you say, just those little things like. There's got to be a way to make it quicker. I think it should just be offsides, yes or no. I think they should until they've got a computer that can tell you it's offside or it's not. It should just be given.
Yeah,
because you're still kind of guessing because it's on the frame rate of the cameras, it's on the angle of the cameras. I just feel like how can they introduce it before they can even properly use it? But on offsides, other things different. But yeah, I think it is very annoying. Red cards in life. What would you give it to?
Red cards in life?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The mine was when you go to a cash machine and you want 20 quid and they give it all in fivers. But when you've only got a fiver left in your account and there's no fivers left. So I've had that time when you've got £6 and you can't get a fiver up. So that winds me up. So it could be something trivial like that. It doesn't have to be that big.
There's plenty of things that wind me up. There's plenty of things. What would I give a red card to, though? I'd probably say the whole thing of waiting at a bar. You know, like when people queue up in the bars, how wide, and somebody just starts a queue of going 1v1. That just lines. Come on, wake up.
It's worse when they jump in though, when someone you see them walk in and they do that. They've jumped in. I hate that. With the tap on the shoulder.
Murder.
Okay, that's all good, right? So that's enough chat about football, football history, Wigan. Again, feel free to bring anything in. We'll talk a bit more about yourself now.
So.
Hello everyone, just a really quick message to remind you about our Patreon. From just £1 a month, you can support the podcast, and in return, you get an extra section at the end of each interview where I ask the questions that you send in from home. There's also a monthly quiz where we do stuff like family fortunes, pointless, the chase, loads of other stuff. Previous guests, new faces, it's always a good laugh, always worth a watch. That comes out every single month. And now, exclusively, there's a new benefit. You get entered into a prize draw for signed items like this. So this is from John Scales. It's a 94 to 96 kit for Liverpool, signed by John, and this is thanks to exclusive private signings who have given us a load of shirts that we're going to give away, one each month. So all you got to do is get over to patreon.com/thefootballhistorianpodcast. You can win a signed shirt, extra section, a quiz every month. What more do you want? Back the podcast, back the lads. Let's get back to the episode. SMS Pro Soccer. That's what I said. There's a lot of different things. I've been looking at your LinkedIn, your Twitter, whatever. But maybe just explain yourself first, and then we'll lead into SMS Pro Soccer. Please.
Okay. So Wigan fan through and through. All my life, watched Wigan for 20 years, but then got into non-league football. Cut long story short, my son wanted to play football, so he was 8 at the time. And wanted to get into a football team. Took him to Ashton Town, which was my local club. So I'm from Ashton Makefield near Wigan. Took him to non-league football to sign up. And I just seen a gap in the market of, do you know what? As I say, like I mentioned before, I've watched Wigan through and through, got to the Premier League, and bored is the wrong word, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as what I had. And I just seen this non-league football, and it was an open day. And it was classed as a fun day, and the only thing fun differently was a bouncy castle, and that's not me having a go at all at Ashton at the time. It was just something else can happen, can it? You know, surely we can do this, we can do that, and that's what got me into non-league football. So I ended up saying, "Is there any chance I can rent the pitch and we'll have a charity game on?" And then I ended up staying there. I was chairman for 14 years. Then I went to Pilkington for a year just with work. So I was chairman at Pilts for a year, and then I'm now at FC St Helens. But in the middle of it, just after Pilts, I've got this job in full-time football, SMS Pro Soccer. So before that, I've been a landlord, so ran pubs all my life, loving that, from Wigan to St Helens to Manchester, running pubs. But I finally landed a full-time job in football, which was always the dream, even as a kid. You know, just a full-time job in football is a dream come true. And yeah, SMS Pro Soccer, in a nutshell, is I do tours for players all over the world to come to England and experience English football. But what I've done is I've tied it onto my Wigan Athletic contacts. So I've done the Wigan Athletic Legend side, which is Joseph Scull's charity legend side. It's in its 10th year now. So it's got me a little bit closer to the people I used to watch and respect and used to pay money to watch. Kind of found the niche of me finding a pathway for them to have more impact in football by me bringing teams over from abroad and giving trials and seeing how we go. Ecuador and Honduras, we've mentioned quite fondly beforehand, is I foresee of me getting the next generation of them, because I think it's overlooked. Certainly in footballing terms, definitely.
So when you say you give them players tours, so this is what, teenagers who are looking to play football or full-time professionals? Who is it you're targeting?
Kids teams, you know, all the way up to under 16s. So as little as you want to go to under 16s to come over and experience football. There's loads of tour companies who have a level of what they want. I don't. So whatever you want to, whatever level you are and you want to experience in England, I'll provide that. So it might be that I've had it before where last year we had a team from Utah come over who were a great side, really good side, but what they were and how they played was a little bit different. So they played Bolton because they wanted to play Bolton Wanderers, no problem whatsoever, and they got beat 6-0. So then I had to flip the fixtures a little bit just so it didn't impact like that. So we played Curzon Ashton, and then we played a development side from Wigan. But it's whatever suits the ability to come over. The dream, obviously, is to find somebody who is the next player from whatever country, and I'm hoping I will find that in the summer, because Antonio Valencia, he's got his own academy in Ecuador, and his dream is for somebody to follow in his pathway. Right. So fingers crossed we'll find that this summer.
Yeah, and so have you had players sign up for clubs here that you've had already? Have people signed for?
No, this is the first year where I've modelled it. We're doing an under-16s tournament. So I've had a player on trial before, but he was too old. He was 21, and the clubs that I took him to wanted younger. So when they said under-16s is the way to do it, well, let's do a tournament for under-16. So this summer, literally this summer. Which is amazing, because the way I put it together was I was going to do it at Bolton Wanderers Hotel. Perfect scenario. I think that's the only thing Dave Whelan missed out as an opportunity as a football chairman, and taking the club to the next level was having a hotel within the football ground. What Bolton have got there is just fantastic, absolutely superb. The facilities and the training grounds, only a little bit of a walk away. So we're going to do an under-16s tournament. It was modelled to go and play at Wigan and at the Bolton Arena just over the road. But because it's that good of a network, we're going to play it all at Bolton Wanderers Academy.
Right. And
I've got teams from Ecuador, Honduras, Mexico, China, Australia, England, all competing for... We're going to do it... It's designed on I don't know if you've seen the TST tournament in America. Nope. TST is they play for $1 million. We ain't playing for $1 million. So they do it for $1 million, and it's very legend orientated. So it's $40,000 to enter, $40,000 to enter. Nani has got a side in it. Sergio Aguero's got a side in it. Swansea, Bournemouth, they've put sides in it. But it's 7 aside, and Americans being Americans, it gets to full time. So say it was 3-1, it's the first one to 4. So say it was 2-1, it's the first one to 3. So in extra time, every 2 minutes they take off a player as well.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just all about entertainment value. At first, when I first watched it, I was going, darn Americans again, what you doing? And then when it actually watched and you could see the teams going down to 3v3, the entertainment and the skill factor was really, really good.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing in this tournament, and the winners are going to get a £10,000 as well. So, and that can be anybody from all over the world, basically. So there's going to be 16 teams in it, and hopefully a gem amongst them.
That sounds like an exciting thing to be involved in. So is that like, how do you approach teams from? Because I think I saw on your LinkedIn you saying you wanted teams from China, Saudi Arabia, more South American side. So how do you cast your net? How do you find them?
Social media is a wonderful thing. Well, it's bad in some ways, but it's a wonderful thing for me is to get in that network. LinkedIn's fantastic of getting that. It's one of them opportunities where only certain individuals are going to take you up on it because it's the element of trust and all that type of thing. So I think once we get this first one done in the summer, which is an under-16s tournament showcasing at Bolton Wanderers, once people see that and see the products out of it, I think they'll be battening down the hatches for the year after. So yeah, it's word of mouth. What's great for me is it's talking to all different countries. I love it. Zoom, I'm getting used to. I was publican for 30 years, so I'm all about being face to face. Having Zoom calls with China, broken English, dodgy internet every now and again. It's not the greatest of conversations, but it's really exciting. Yeah. It's really good.
That sounds great. Yeah, definitely. So is that this summer? Is that tickets to watch that in
July?
Get people can watch.
Yeah, people can watch it as well. Yeah. So once I've got the full lineup announced, it'll be all over social media. And but yeah, it's going to be done over 4 days. And then the idea is, out of all the teams that come and play, we're also then going to do a SMS 11 aside against Bolton Wanderers. So the best right back, the best left back, the best centre forward. So you're going to get a real mix of culture. Again, which that's what I want to bring into it. It's not just about playing football, it's about building individuals as well. There might be a 15-year-old lad who's never left Virginia, USA. However, he's going to come and play in a tournament in England against teams from all over the world. We're going to have an opening party and a closing party with special guests from football. It's going to be an experience, but a cultural one as well.
Yeah. Sounds great. So SMS Pro Soccer, check that out.
That's the one, yeah. Please,
socials,
yeah, all socials, yeah.
And then we'll go into your. Well, I'll go to your Wigan side more because I think Harry Robinson spoke about. He said some of the people you get for those Legends games. Your president Roberto Martinez has managed teams.
Yeah.
So again, how do you get in touch with those people? How do you build that relationship with them?
Very hard from the early days. Some of the situations I got myself in is quite funny, and in that just by. Because we go back 9 years, it wasn't as easy as what it is now. Now I'm literally having conversation with players easy because you just, you're sending inboxes to Instagrams and that type of stuff. Back in the day when I first started out, and again, it's an element of trust. I'm 9 years in it now, so the 10th year. 10th year, but 9th game is this summer. In May, we're doing it. It's easier said than done getting players, but once you've got the history to show them, it's 10 times better. So I remember the first one, Roberto Martinez agreed to play, so he played in the first one. Now he manages. He's gone on to be managers for Portugal and all. He's top tier. But he just left Wigan when I first did it. Just gone to Everton, and he played in the game. But to try and get the numbers, it was finding random ones. So Nathan Ellington's quite a good one, to be fair. So Nathan Ellington, I said to the missus, she's from Manchester, I said, we'll go to your mum's, but I'll drop you off at your mum's and then let me just go to, I've got a meeting. I turned up at Nathan Ellington's house. Nathan Ellington opened the door, suited and booted. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? Sent me into his kitchen. There was about 15 people there. I then sat through 2 hours of this, he probably won't say pyramid scheme, but 2 hours of this, how to do this, how to do that. And right at the very end, there was a piece of paper to say, if you give us this and all your details, you've signed on with us. 2 hours later, Nathan, can I have a quick word? Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Really sorry, but I'm not interested in any of that. Any chance you could play for Wigan Athletic Legends in 2 weeks' time? He was like, what? And that's how it started. So little scenarios like that was just like, no way. Yeah, unbelievable. And then...
Did he say yes?
Yeah, he played. He's played ever since. He's probably the top goal scorer. Stuart Barlow, I waited for a game beforehand. Peter Atherton used to play for Wigan back in the day. Bumped into him in a nightclub in Wigan. Thought he weren't going to bring me back, but he did. All them little scenarios have just built up over the years where, honestly, now there's a queue to get into that team. It's ridiculous. The next stage of legends to come into it is the Wilson Palacioses of this world. Mo Diame, he was a great player for us, and then went on to Newcastle. He's just about to come to the end of his career. I think he's in Saudi now. So they're my next potentials of getting into the side. But yeah, it's great. It's been fantastic over the years.
So from doing this myself as well, I've found it's a bit of a numbers game as well. I'm sure you've had similar where you throw out 100 messages and hope that 2 people say yes. So is there a big target that you haven't managed to get hold of that you want to be the next playing in the next game?
Yeah. There always has been. He's one of the most popular. Jimmy Bullard. Every player, and this is nothing against Jimmy at all, but every player is you can get to by Jimmy Bullard. It's always diverted to an agent, and I get it because he has gone top tier. Since he's gone not playing the game, he's gone on to do celebrity stuff and all that type of stuff. But he's the one that everybody does want to see. He really does. When he came to Wigan, he was comical. When he was brilliant. Ended up playing for England. What a player! But I just can't get old. For love and money, just can't get hold of him. Other ones have come from here, there, and everywhere. Mario Melchot, found him in Miami. He flew over from Miami. Wow. Paul Scharner flies over from Austria every summer and lodges in some house in Ormskirk. What's that all about? But it happens. All these little scenarios are just like, what's going on here? It's superb.
So where'd you play as well?
Well, it was at Ashton Town for the first few years. So we played at Ashton. And then when I left Ashton, I tried to... It was always to be wanted to go to the DW Stadium. That was always the dream, to hold it there. And I think it should stay there for life now. It's hard work getting it there at the minute. It's hard work getting the fans in numbers, like even more now. Liverpool do it 10 out of 10. Obviously they've played one recently and they fill the stadium. They do really, really well. In my head, I'm a dreamer. I'm sure we can get up to certain figures, because again, the players that we can get over are just unbelievable. Hugo Rodriguez, there's so many players who we can still see. Yeah. This year, though, we're going to divert, and bit of an exclusive here because I've not announced it yet. We're going to play at the Women's Stadium. So Wigan's got a new Women's Stadium. It's going to be open very, very soon, which used to be the old Oral Ground. So we're going to play it there this year, but in the hope that next year we go back to the stadium and we go all singing and dancing again.
That's great. And then, I'm not saying I can do it anyway, help, but why don't you do a message to camera? We'll put it as a clip and we'll try and get Jimmy Bullard in, so if you can speak to him. There's your camera. What would you say to him?
Love that. Jimmy, you're the player that everybody wants. We would love you to be. So it's the 10th year of holding these Wigan Athletic Legends game for Joseph Scholl charity close to everybody's heart in Wigan. To get you in midfield, mate, would be superb.
Get down there, Jimmy. Make sure you do it. I'm sure everyone will be very happy to see you. All right, great. And then a touch on the chairman side as well. So you've many different sides of what you've done. Chairman, do you have maybe more sympathy for how chairmen have to run? And again, no disrespect, bigger football clubs. Is there still a lot of admin to do in the lower league sides, and how much of a full-time job was it?
It's huge. People really don't understand how much it is without people being in it. It's voluntary what we do. People are getting paid to do all them other roles. I just see things differently. I'd like to think anybody who's worked alongside me at football clubs I do things differently, where there's a lot of chairmen who want to do everything themselves. I'm the complete opposite, where I've got a skill set, you've got a skill set, Bob's got a skill set. Let's just home in on them, and I rather build the teams wider rather than longer. And I think that's key to what I've done. Ashton Town, when I first got there, very, very proud to be Ashton Town's chairman because that's my home club. I kind of, when I was at Ashton, I never seen myself leaving. I see myself as a little bit of a Matt Letizia of, it's my club, why should I ever go? But life goes different paths and ambition, and you're only here once. So I give 14 years to Ashton, and when I first went there, they were kind of always at the bottom. Didn't really have any social media, didn't have any fan base or anything like that. So what we created there was pretty special because we got a club from nowhere really. And again, that's no disrespect, but a club that just ticked over, always near the bottom of the league. We got the highest finished in the league. We had Emerson Boyce played for him, Pascal Chimbonda played for him. So we got noticed around the world, which then attracted sponsorship, then attracted social media people to help out, and it was just it was a good period in my life of showing what I could do with zero budget, basically, because that's how we competed. And I'm very, whatever I do is all about sustainability. I don't want to be one of them where I've been at a club and a year later it folds or anything like that. It's the complete opposite, where we never went above our means. I remember I got my first ever sponsorship deal at Ashton Town, and we actually started paying expenses to players, because up until then we didn't, and it was just people playing for the love of the game. And then I got £10,000 sponsorship, and you have all these dreams and aspirations of signing players, and I remember we signed two players specifically. One was Danny Coyd, who used to play for Blackpool in the Prem. He was my marquee signing, Danny Coyd, and a young lad called Danny Griffiths, who was in the Liverpool Echo for scoring something like 99 goals in a season for some team, and what a player he was. But what happened then was my aspirations had jumped, and you kind of have to, again, it's all about width. That was one sponsor, but as soon as that sponsor goes, you're left on your own, and then you can't commit to everything else. So again, I jumped at that period and learnt the hard way of you can't do it that way. Yeah. So we had a really good crack. Don't get me wrong, we had a really good crack, and I think we finished fourth or something that year. We really, really pushed it. The next season we had no money, So it really needs to be spread widthways. And yeah, so 14 years, handed that over. It was my time to go. I couldn't do anything else. There was no more rabbits in hats that I could find or anything like that. And businessmen then came over and took the club, and now I've took it commercially to the next level, which fair play to them. And then I went on a different journey.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I like your why not type spirit, the type of, which I think is quite inspirational, I would say. But because I've done nothing here, but I do often get told, like, why are you doing that? But then you think, well, why not? Like, our side team played a friendly at Marine's ground, because it was like our 10-year celebration. And it was like, oh, we should go out. I was like, no, we'll play at the stadium. And I was just, so I just think, dream big, something might happen, as you say, throw as many darts at the wall and one of them is a bullseye.
100%. 100%.
That must be something that you obviously try and do a lot, because you to have big. Well, we'll go straight on to St Helens to get Jefferson Montero. I was like, I didn't even know that was yourself or anything to do with that. I remember seeing that, watching the interview, going, that's mad. But that must be part of the tactic, is if you do something like that, then eyes are on it, punters are on it, and it makes the whole profile bigger. Even if Jefferson Montero does nothing and plays for 5 minutes, you got, I think Sky were there where
totally.
So it's that whole part of the tactic on making all these things bigger.
It is. You've got to play. I said it before. You're only here once, So you can't ask every player. And don't get me wrong, I have asked lots of players, but you've got to do it tactically. I don't want to come across the wrong way, and I'm not doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm doing it all for the right reasons. So. The Jefferson Montero thing came about where I'd found out that he'd moved from Ecuador to England, and he was living in Manchester. So I cottoned on to that, and then within the first week, let me just have a conversation with him and just see how it goes. And Jefferson, fit as a fiddle, has only just stopped playing football. Speaks good English. He doesn't say he does, but it's very good English. And you could tell he's a bit of a character. So me, maybe being a little bit of a character, said, do you want me to put in for your international clearance? I'm a sporting director at FC St Helens, so even if it was Everton, we're all the same. We just need to get your international clearance first. Once you've got your international clearance, you can play for anybody. Oh yeah, thank you, no problem whatsoever. Brilliant. When it came through, Jefferson, your international clearance has come through. Oh, that's fantastic. Playing for FC St Helens? What? But on all fairness, he only said it once. What? And I said, no, genuinely, you playing for FC St Helens? All right then. Oh God. And it didn't work out. His fitness isn't there. But it did work out, because everything's not about football on the pitch. Things have to be done commercially to make a club bigger. FC St Helens, there's 3 non-league clubs in St Helens. And and that is a rugby town. So Wigan, I'd argue, football, but St Helens is, of course, a rugby town, and you've got 3 non-league football sides: St Helens Town, FC St Helens, and Pilkington, all vying for the same fan. You've got to do something different. You've got to. Yeah. St Helens Town, fair play to them. They've gone and got the Clone Roses, the knockoff Stone Roses band, as their owners. So they've got like a bit of a cult following. So they get quite a good fan base off that, and they do lots of things right in the community. So 10 out of 10 for them. We've got to do something different at FC St Helens, and to get Jefferson Montero, who's played in the Premier League, La Liga, we've mentioned Messi, Ronaldo. He's played against them both. He's played against Argentina for Ecuador. It's a huge coup, and it was that huge that I promised to say to Jefferson, my deal was take no offence, Jefferson, but nobody knows if you're here in England, and people need to. You've played in the Premier League. Depending on what you want your career to be, people need to know that you're back in England now, and it works, because Sky Sports was all over it, and then all of a sudden FC St Helens are all over it, and that was beautiful, because that's exactly what we needed as a club. We needed to build a fan base. FC St Helens we're in our 11th year now, so we're very young as a football club. So we needed to do something different, and it works. It's put 100 on the gate in his first game, which is priceless. And still to this day, now I have meetings with ex-footballers or current footballers. Was most recent, and before it even started, they said, Jefferson Montero. I went, yeah, and it's fantastic, and it's fantastic for Jefferson as well, because as I say, what he wanted out of it was giving back to the game, which he did, and bless him, literally, the only thing I couldn't time right was the weather. It was freezing. So again, it's all right getting players out of retirement or semi-retirement. I've made him play in absolute ice conditions. We played away. Can't think what the club was. It took him 2 hours to get there. He drove himself. It took him 2 hours to get there. He sat on the bench for 70 minutes and then came off. You're not going to get a 10 out of 10 performance out of a guy who's absolutely frozen. Can't speak the football language on a pitch. You know, it doesn't work that way. But as I say, hats off. He never missed a training session, you know, and did really, really well for us. And it still will, because it'll be part of our history now.
Yeah, right. And then, so how important is a little black book in being the chairman, sporting director, I think is what you are at St Helens now?
Yeah.
How important is it? How do you build it up, and how do you keep hold of contacts as well?
Never delete a number. So if you make the mistake of ringing me and it's not on private, I've saved it, and that's happened many a time on situations. I think in football, there's your wealthy chairman, and there's the people like me who have to duck and dive to get your club survival, and that's how I've done it. You know, and literally, it's 14 years at Ashton, home club, Pilks for 1 season. We won the league one season. I was only there for 1 season, but we won the league. I made a statement from what my own contacts could do, and that was with Pascal Chimbonda's academy. We brought all them in on a training session, and we ended up signing 5 of them. And that was no disrespect to the players who were there. I quite openly said that I'm going to do a training. Every single player from Pascal's academy is going to come, and I don't want to sign them all, but it's down to you guys now to take that next step up. And quite a lot of them did. You know, there's a player called Marcus Giglio, the centre mid, and I think he'll complement that move itself, because it wasn't that he was just very casual in what he was doing, but he naturally had to step up as a player, but became 10 times better because the players around him were improving the club. So yeah, it's priceless in what I've done, a black book, if you like, because it's all about sustainability and building the club that way. And it's the way I do it. It's kind of, there's other clubs around there that don't need that black book. West Didsbury, just down the road, they get over 1,000 fans. The last attendance was 1,300. They don't need no black book. You know, they've got money coming through the gate that they can then invest in expenses and that for players, and they're naturally going to work as a football club, whereas sometimes you've got to do things a little bit different, and I'll always do things a little bit different.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, I think you said you worked 16 years voluntary before you got your full-time full-time work in football. What would your advice be to someone? Obviously, it doesn't have to be as a chairman or whatever, but advise someone who wants to get into football, what would you say to them? Never give up,
100% never give up, and just chase every lead. The worst thing people can say is no. Genuinely, the amount of times I've been said no, you don't take offence to it. It's just no, I get it, no problem whatsoever. But never give up. I've not given up. I've got many years to go in this game, and I'm not stopping where I am now. It's going to go further.
Yeah, right. So that's boss. I say it's been very interesting speaking to you. I really do appreciate it. That's the end of our conversation.
My pleasure.
Okay. But how do you want anyone to get in touch? Follow you? What's the most important thing for people to do?
Social media, Mark Hayes, myself, so follow me as personally, Mark Hayes or Northern Promise on social media, and SMS Pro Soccer. Watch where that goes. Okay, that's great. I appreciate you coming along. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening or watching at home to the Football Historian Podcast.
Locking eyes from across the room, heart is pounding. What have I have to lose? This kind of feeling tends to blur your sight.